Hey everyone in YouTube land. Tonight we're going to have cocktails and conversation with Mr. Brando.
I am Mr. Brando.
And I am your lovely host, April Beebe. Tonight we are going to talk about the Iraqi Dinar. And we're going to ask Mr. Brando some questions. How are you doing tonight?
Well, first of all, my publicist booked me for this, and I wasn't ready. And I've been traveling, days and nights, searching the world over for currencies, and I ended up here with you. And I ordered 3,000 green M&Ms, and in my trailer, I only got 1,000 green M&Ms. So thank you. I'm fine. How are you, Miss Beebe?
I'm well, Devo.
The life of a YouTube star.
He's just too much.
I'm just joking. It's a pleasure. I'm just I'm kind of actually can I say this like this? Like, when we got into this YouTube jazz, I was never the stuff that we've seen, the people we've talked to, the stuff. Why would anybody want to talk to me? I never thought that. So I am happy and more than enthralled to be here in our new YouTube studio.
Yes.
And I am more than happy to answer your questions. I just hope I do it justice.
Oh, you'll do fine.
Okay.
You'll do fine.
And I have my cocktail. Water.
I have mine. Grapefruit lime margarita.
Cheers.
Oh, cheers. So, let's see.
Okay.
I'm just going to throw questions out there randomly.
Randomly, yeah. I want to go off the cuff. I want to have fun with this.
So tell me, why should people invest in the Iraqi dinar?
Well, I think if I was a new person getting into it, I had the experience with this older guy that was really cool, and I dug him because we talked about business. We did a lot of things that got my mind reeling to the world, not so much just my little pond, which was Houston. And I had been a domestic person where I'd been to Vegas and New York, San Francisco, Detroit. I've been to Chicago a few times, and when I got to thinking about the world as your oyster, your pond, I always thought this United States was not big enough. There was other things going on in the world that were big. You know what I'm saying? So when this guy brought to me the Iraqi dinar, I was like, wow, you mean this whole other country so undervalued? And I was just starting to learn about something called irons of profit, and the whole thing about that was if you put $1 into something and you got $1.50 back, that was okay. But if you put $1 into something and got $8 back, that was even better. And so, and so when I got into the dinar, it was undervalued. It was the .com of my time. So I missed all that. I missed savings and loan. I missed the housing scandal. I missed all that. So my whole thought process was getting into the Iraqi dinar is something that I first figured out was legislative. So when I figured out that the United States president had written executive orders about, prospering in a different country and being able to make money off of it, that it was just something I had to get involved in. Because I just felt it was a little piece of history. And because of Desert Storm and the Kuwait, the burning fields and stuff like that, it drew a lot of interest because I'm a big history person. So when I knew there was an opportunity to invest and maybe possibly make something out of it, not maybe possibly, it was you're going to make something out of it one day. I didn't know when, but I just knew that I had to have my foothold into that. I just wanted to do that. It just sounded so cool.
Okay. Now, I always like to bring this up because I feel cryptos was a speculative investment.
Sure.
And so is the stock market when you really think about it. And some investors out there get their feathers ruffled when you call this investment speculative. Now, do you feel that way?
No. I call it speculative because I think that's what the masses got to hear. When I say the masses, I mean the audience that listens to the channel. And I'm not saying that they're not in tune to what's going on in the world, but I just think that speculative it incites the whole idea that you're not going to get your money back, right? There's a possibility you're going to put money in this and it's not going to make any money. Well, no matter what, something speculative means that to me, if I bought a bed, a mattress, and I didn't like it and I sold it to my friend. If I could sell it for a little bit of the value or the value of it, I'd get my money out of it. It's not speculative at that point.
Okay.
The dinar is the same way. If you buy it and you want to turn it back in, you may lose money on the spread, but you're not going to lose money as a whole. So I mean, like, you're not going to get rich out of it, but you're not going to be poor because you can always get your money out of it.
Yeah.
And I think people miss that understanding about it.
Well, and for me, like when I say speculative, like I'll give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on when you bought your Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's speculative. Why is it speculative? Because everybody out on YouTube, or a lot of people, let me say not everybody, but a lot of people were speculating that it's going to go to 60,000, 100,000, right?
Right. They're speculating on what it could do.
Right. So, you know, if you got in and you bought Bitcoin when it was $600, $1,000.
Remember when I brought it to you, it was $750.
Right.
Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, look, man, I got this really cool investment. And like, we were like doing our thing. I was like, man, I got this investment. And like, it's like $750. You put in X, you're going to get Y out of it. Tell me how you felt then. Like, is this crap? Is this like...
Well, for me, I had known of Bitcoin back in the day when it was $99.
Right.
But I didn't invest in it because I was still on its digital money. You know, I was that...
Old school thinking.
Right. And then I was that dot-commer that lost money. So I kind of was hesitant.
But how did you lose money in .com?
Companies folded.
Okay, but did you stay in it too long, or did you not get out fast enough?
Stayed in it too long.
Okay, so it wasn't speculative.
And actually, I did lose money because the companies filed bankruptcies and they weren't ordered to pay anymore.
Right. Okay, so let me give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
The difference between a company filed bankruptcy and a country filed bankruptcy is two different things.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, when a currency files bankruptcy, it's a lop, right? Basically, what they're saying, no one supports this, we can't get this over, so we're going to lop it. Mm-hmm. So, like, when you talk about Bitcoin and being speculative, it really wasn't. It was really much a whole market-driven value. It's the whole thing with currency. Currency is nothing more than if you take the supply of it, times it by the velocity of it, people that want it, if there's not a great demand for it, it's going to make money, right? Mm-hmm. And Bitcoin was the same way. So when I brought it to you and we were talking, I believe it was over breakfast one day, you know, a few years ago, and I was like, man, look, this currency, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do my homework. Well, or the .com even, when people brought it to me, I was like, well, I didn't understand it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like when you get involved in something you don't understand, you think it's going to come back. But once that first wave comes through, you got to cash out, just take what you get. It's kind of like half bread's better than no bread.
Well, and then the whole concept behind cryptos was hodling.
Right.
Because the whole, you know, thing behind it was it's going to get greater. And just in a matter of 6 months from the, you know, we saw it go from like 1,500 to like 16,000.
Right.
So, you know, like, oh my gosh, like we're here, we're onto something here. So it's like, I'm holding on, I'm waiting. Excuse me. And I go back to that Kenny Rogers song. You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And that is with everything.
Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. And not to dominate the conversation. But, so Bitcoin. So I bring it to you at 750. It hits 1,500. A lot of people cashed out. 1,500, right? Mm-hmm. So let's just say you got some more early adopters. So at 1,500 to like, let's say 8,000. More people cashed out. That's 8,000 times your money, right? Mm-hmm. So from 8,000 to like 14,000, they double your money again, right? Mm-hmm. So at some point, you got to say it's not speculative at this point. It's just that time is up. Like,
and I hear you on that. And then, you know, so when I did invest, I invested in Litecoin and Tron. Now, what stopped me from cashing out, and I'll be very honest about that, was taxes. I did not want to give Uncle Sam short-term capital gains. And they came in January, the month that it was at its highest, and said, guess what, people? We are now going to tax cryptocurrency.
Well, and see, but that was the whole problem with cryptocurrencies, is that no one understood the tax implications. Mm-hmm. And when they did, it was too late. So like all those people that made money off the $20,000 return, those were what I like to call the early adopters, and they cashed out with no capital gains. Mm-hmm. The people like you and I that are saying, well, look, this is generational, it's going to help us, we're going to do this, we're going to do that with it. We wanted to cash out, but we couldn't at that point because we had to pay taxes. So what good is having an investment that flips 2 or 3 times? But you can't get your money out because you're going to pay 50% in taxes or 60%.
Because I remember sitting there looking at Tron, looking at Litecoin, and thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I've made some money here. I want to cash out. But giving 40% to Uncle Sam, I didn't want to do that. So
just didn't seem smart.
No, because I'm like, I want to make more money than that. You know what I mean? Like,
so your aspiration underwhelms your asset.
Yeah. And then here's the thing. I feel like you have to know you're out, right?
Well,
like if you go into an investment, and this has been my school of thought now, but sometimes I aim too high. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. Well, for someone who like me who lost money in limos and cars, I lost money in real estate, I lost money in housing, I lost money in banking. I understand the difference between greed and need.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
A lot of times I should have walked away when I had what I needed.
Yeah.
But greed made me stay too long.
And see, it depends on what I was doing because I was in the real estate market.
Right.
Fly out to Arizona, left $1,000 check with every builder. Right. Every builder I could leave a check with before a lot of people caught on. Before the builders caught on.
Right.
It took 6 months to build a house. Right. By the time they build a house, I'm sitting on equity. Put that sucker on the market. I take my money. I'm on to the next. So I didn't mind. Why? Because it was bigger chunks of change.
Okay. So again, that's called early adoption, right? And what you were was trend setting to the market, right? Because you were new, you're a pioneer. And you had a basic understanding of the velocity times the supply. There were houses, people wanted to buy them. The supply was limited because it took longer to build it. And you were cashing out with equity before people really had a chance to really get their money out of it, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with currency.
Yeah.
Same thing.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm learning to use my tool.
There you go.
Okay. So we kind of got off the subject a little bit, but we're going back to IQD, Iraqi Dinar. So what?
Well, hold on. Can we say this right quick?
Okay.
I think the conversation needs to be more about investing in something that you don't necessarily believe in, besides the dinar, than just the dinar. Because there are so many things you can invest in that people are going to look at as speculative, like housing, like Bitcoin, like the dinar. That I think people limit it, especially by race, creed, and color. I'm not just trying to say that like that, but like so many people of color limit themselves on what they can make money on.
Well, I think you have to have a certain kind of mindset.
Right, exactly. That's
because there are those that will throw their money away on hair, nails, Gucci bags. Consumption. Things that don't bring you any value, right? It just brings you joy or happiness.
Personal value.
Or yeah, I guess so.
So is that not valuable to the consumer?
Well, it just depends on what makes you happy. Because at the end of the day, it's about what makes you happy.
Exactly,
right?
Yeah.
So I can't say that that's a negative thing. But at the same time, like I've told people about certain investments, right? They either get in it too late, right?
Yeah.
Or they're busy doing other things with their money because they don't see the value in what I'm talking about.
Correct.
Right?
I agree.
And I'm not talking about just the Iraqi dinar. I'm saying overall in general, real estate, stock market, etc. So it depends on the individual's mindset and the level of risk. I always tell people, don't invest more than you can afford to lose.
Or what I would tell you right now is, don't overestimate the intelligence of the speaker or the listener. So you can tell me all day long about real estate and all this stuff, but if my intellect is only limited to what I know, I may look at that and say, well, my mom and daddy don't own a house; they rented, or I've never even thought, when I bought my first house, I thought that only rich people owned homes. I really did. I thought that only rich, wealthy...
Well, wait a minute. Your parents owned a home, though.
Correct, but I thought they were rich.
I thought my parents were rich, too. Let me say this.
I did.
But let me also say this. My mother bought our home with her unemployment check. Isn't that crazy?
But see, to me, that's the mystique of being an adult.
That's crazy when you think about it. Because unemployment pays less than your normal salary.
Of course.
Our home back then, because I asked my mom this. She said she paid $100 and something a month for a mortgage. A mortgage.
$100?
I can't even get a card with that today. But I'm a 70s
we digress.
baby. I'm a 70s baby, right? But it's about wanting to build and leave something behind, assets, something to obtain wealth. And I think it's all about the mindset of the individual.
I agree.
All about the mindset.
I'm good with that.
Guns and butter, right?
Right?
It's all about the mindset. So, I say that to say I was always taught by my parents, own over rent. You're paying someone else's mortgage. There's no rent control, right?
Right.
The millennials nowadays?
Rent of our own.
Right.
Well, because they don't want to be tied to anything. They don't want to have any responsibilities. It's so true to the whole millennial market. And I'm not mad at the millennials. I'm just saying that when I was coming up, my whole big deal was getting a place to live. Having a car that was respectable, right? I could get to work. When I had those things and someone introduced me to housing, I was like, well, why can't I own a house? And when I could own a house, it was, well, why can't I own the car I want? Or why can't I do this? Currency, speculative investments are the same thing.
And let me give that back to you. I also think it starts from when we're kids. We look to our parents. We look at what they're doing.
Right.
My mother would preach to me about good credit.
Okay.
But her idea of credit and my idea of credit now is totally different.
Mine too.
Because she wouldn't use her credit cards.
Right.
It was so interesting. Like in the 70s, and then you and I had this conversation, how she threw me a birthday party for less than $100. She made the cake. She got some toys. And that was one of the best birthday parties for me, right?
Right.
She bragged about having great credit. We had a roof over our head, big backyard, all that good stuff. So I say that to say it depends on what you come from. If your parents put those kind of values in you, right? Like if you saw your parents get a house, then you're more apt to what?
Get out.
Get a house. If you grew up in apartments and you felt like that was a great life, you're going to be like, I'll rent.
Do you know what challenged me?
What?
When I was a little kid and my dad, I would sit around with my mom and my dad, but most of my dad. And we would sit in our split level house in a little town called Vancouver, Washington. And what I can remember, we in Portland didn't understand it, but I would say, Daddy, we have it all. We're rich. You know what I'm saying? And we weren't rich, but I felt like we were just so rich. Like we had it all, right? We had a house. We could go eat hamburgers. We could get pizza. We did it all. You know what I'm saying? And he looked at me one day and he said, let me tell you something, boy. You never did more than what your parents did. So if you can't exceed what I did, then you're not rich. You're really broke because you didn't do what I taught you to do better, right? But
you have, right?
Me personally, 5 times over, but that doesn't mean anything. To me, wealth isn't anymore about. It's the monetary value of wealth that motivates me to do a lot of things I do. And I'm getting back to dinar. But what motivates me into wealth nowadays is not what it was when I was 10, 15 years younger. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because I had a number for myself. You want to hear it?
Yeah, what was it?
So, when I was a little girl, I remember I said, I'm going to graduate from college. I'm going to get a good job. A good job, the number to me was $5,000 a month. That was my number.
It's a lot of money.
But it's not a lot of money.
Okay, but can I share something with you? When I first started working, and I remember the best year I ever had, I made $55,000. My whole goal in life at that point was when I saw $55,000 was I want to make $100,000.
Right.
I said, well, wow, if I can make $100,000, do you know how much money that is? That's like, oh my God, like you're super.
But you know what? Rich. I think the thing for me and you, and that's why we get along so well, it's never good enough.
Oh my God.
We keep trying, we keep striving for more,
Yeah.
Because it's just like, where we are today is not enough. We want greater, we want more.
Right.
And I feel like for myself that the day you stop longing and wanting for more to do better, it's a wrap. Does that make sense?
Complacency breeds mediocrity.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So
I agree. Let's get back to the dinar.
Okay. So could you explain the difference between the reinstatement versus the revaluation, the RV?
Okay. So first of all, there's never been a RV ever. the reinstatement means, just like so many other countries did, that you have a currency that's undervalued or under sanction or whatever. Mm-hmm. You're going to reinstate it back to the international stage at whatever value you want.
Okay.
So you can float it, you can fix it, you can do whatever, but you're going to reinstate it back to international value based upon, again, a couple simple things: foreign reserves, what the availability of that currency is, supply times velocity, your markets, basically. So I don't really believe in an RV. Like, there's not going to ever be a revaluation. Mm-hmm. But there will be a reinstatement that hits a revaluation, if that makes sense. Because that dinar will float to something. And when it does, that's where a lot of people will be calling it an RV.
So this brings me to my next question. Mm-hmm. Because I hear you throw around the term dirty float, program rate. Mm-hmm. Can you explain that to our listeners? What's the difference? Explain program rate and dirty float and the difference.
So a program rate is a rate that was imposed upon a country, Iraq, mm-hmm. that said, you're going to hold this value at this for these reasons. And they did. They held it at that value for whatever. And when it floats, it's reinstated at whatever value they decide. Mm-hmm. A dirty float means it can go as high as it wants to. Think of a balloon. So if you put a balloon with some helium in it and there's no walls, like when we did it in here with Moist balloons or my balloons, remember? Mm-hmm. In here we have 12-foot ceilings. Mm-hmm. When we're in the great room, we had what? Were those 25, 30-foot ceilings? Mm-hmm. Not that we're rich or nothing.
And outside it's limitless.
It's limitless. That's a dirty float, right? So that's what I think of it.
Okay.
Now, some people think there's a cap on a dirty float. There's a lot of people that say, well, it can only go so high. But if it's dirty, it can go as high as it wants to. Think of it like this. If I had a car that was a classic car, like a Shelby or something, its value in 1960 or 1970 when it was new is not the same value it holds in 2000. It's not going to be the same value it's held in 2020 or 2030, 2040. It just depends on what someone will pay for it.
Right.
Same thing with currency. Has nothing to do with what it's really worth. That's where a lot of people get confused about fiat and this and that and gold standard. The gold standard is full of shit. Meaning that if there's a lot of countries, there's 6 more countries ahead of us in gold. So you mean to tell me if these
Zimbabwe.
Right. If so you tell me that if Zimbabwe floods the market with gold, they deserve to hold a better value of currency.
And they're cash poor.
So now we're giving them all the purchasing power in the world to buy nukes and to uphold what we think is this, and this. I'm going to let China dictate to me what my lifestyle should be because I'm poor? No. The dollar will always be king. There will never be a dollar crash. These conspiracy theorists out there are full of shit. You got to think with this. We have the largest GDP. We borrow more money from the IMF and other big government institutions. Because why? If I borrow $100,000 from a bank, I can't pay, the bank's got a problem. Mm-hmm. If I borrow $100 million from a bank and I can't pay back, the bank's got a problem. And that's where our debt is right now, because our debt is only in value with the people that can work in that debt, which is your taxes. And that's why you always hear on my podcast, MrBrando.com, www.
No, say your channel name.
Okay, Mr. Brando.
On YouTube. Mr. Brando.
Mr. Brando.
And it's www.youtube.com/Mr. Brando.
Thank you, babe. Okay. We got to talk about how we got started with the YouTube thing, too. But
that's a conversation for another day.
Okay. So, I think that what people don't understand is the dinar specifically could be whatever it wants to be. It's the benchmark for a lot of things. Okay. Its value is only dictated after it's reinstated.
So what's the program rate? You explained
11, whatever it is right now. So the program rate's what's imposed on them. So like when they talk about $11.90 per 1 dinar, mm-hmm. it's like the peso to the dollar.
Right. So it's $11.90 dinars to $1.
Correct.
For example. And then when they drop the 3 zeros, that's when
you can see $1.20
to $1.
Yes. And now the whole argument, what a lot of people don't understand, is in country or out of country. Now, there's a lot of smart-ass people out there that are going to tell you, well, it's all the same thing. Well, it's not. If I take $1 to, let's say, Kuwait, my dollar only goes to about 30 cents or less, right? But if I get Kuwaiti dollars, I need $3 of my dollars to equal one of their dollars. And that's where the whole program rate to reinstatement rate to what it's valued at, all differs for everybody.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It's always going to be an argument about that until it happens. Japan did it. Germany did it. There's been revaluations or RIs, but there's never really been an RV.
Now, Kuwait, when Kuwait did theirs, that was an RV or a RI?
An RI that went to an RV.
So explain that. I'm sorry.
Okay. So when Kuwait reinstated their currency, they were never under sanctions. So they said, we're never going to do this. This is horrible. We're never going to get back to where we need to be. We're not going to do it. They reinstated their rate at, like, let's say $2. The dirty float took it to, I've heard as high as $12, $10. So there were people that cashed out being government contractors that cashed out at $12 or $10. So if you paid $1 for something, you got 12 back.
Damn.
So think about it. If that was your paycheck and you made $10,000.
You now got $120,000?
And how many paychecks did you save?
Oh my gosh, that makes sense. Do you know I used to work with a gentleman that contract overseas, and he never spent his money. The company paid for everything. He worked there for 2 or 3 years. Now, remind you, I'm from California. Everything is high.
Right.
Conrad came back to California, the United States.
Right.
And this is, gosh, it was in the 2000s. I can't say what year now. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah.
Might have been 2009 or somewhere around there. I can't quite remember when. But he came back and he opened a restaurant and he was paying everything cash. So it makes sense with what you say. And he would never explain. He just kept saying, I worked overseas.
It needs no explanation. So I'm working in Kuwait, right? And in Kuwait, the cost of living is X. So they're paying. So those contractors didn't want U.S. dollars back to a certain extent because everything was paid for. They wanted the Kuwaiti dinar because they knew at one point it was on a whole different value. So let's just say I'm just saying $1 million dinars a month back, right? So you think your cost of living costs you 375,000 dinar, right? So you're sitting on 625,000 Iraqi dinar to live every month. So the next month, you've got 5 or 6 months saved up, and you're at $700,000 savings. You saved 35 million dinar, and all of a sudden it revalues, or it reinstates, and all of a sudden you don't cash in first wave because you don't understand what's going on. You wait 2 or 3 waves, and you hit $8. $8 times 35 million is what?
Too much money for me to count.
I mean, $240+ million. I'm sure that happened to some people.
Of course.
You know, did it happen to everybody? No, because not everybody played their cards the same way.
Right. And that's how it's going to be this time.
Exactly.
So,
but there's no contractors this time. It was opened up to us behind Executive Order 13303 and Article 39.
Under Daddy Bush.
Yeah.
Daddy Bush. Papa Bush.
No, I think it was...
no, because I think...
It was. It was
Papa Bush. Papa Bush. So, anyway, we're going to pause for a moment, and we'll be right back.